It's got a very high natural water content, whereas the flesh is really rich and buttery, and it's got a lot of natural sweetness. You'll see, it's so good. It really makes a difference which squash you use. I feel like we see butternut squash all over because they store well, they ship well, they kind of grow in a uniform way. But something a little bit weird looking like this, it's just so much more interesting, has so much flavor, and it was grown, on a farm right nearby.
Is a pumpkin a squash?
A pumpkin is a squash, yes. And you could use any squash in this. You could use a pumpkin. However, to my taste, a pumpkin is a little bit more bitter than this one. But you could throw any squash in here. This is my favorite kind of squash, red curry squash. So I hacked this open. I hacked it in half just so nobody else would have to do that. Plus it's ugly and I had to grunt when I did it. Might want anyone to see that.
But that's good to know.
And if you guys want to see how I would hack one open from the start, I'd be happy to show you. So I just opened this guy up. It has some big seeds in it, just like any pumpkin. So you can scrape those out. Just scrape those out with a spoon. And then once it's open, all we're going to do here is cut this into big chunks, throw it in the pot right behind you, and we're going to bring it to a boil in some stock. Once it comes to a boil, we're going to turn it down to a simmer and just let it cook. And this cooks, about the same pace as a potato, so it cooks really fast.
Oh, you guys have to peel the skin off.
Oh, great point. Yes, that's one of the reasons that I love this so much, is that you don't have to peel the skin off. Plus, this beautiful skin is part of what's going to give us a gorgeous soup at the end. It really adds to the color. So that's another reason why I'm not so into the butternut squash, because the skin looks like a Band-Aid color. You have to get rid of it anyway. This is just so much more interesting. Okay, so in terms of how you should cut the squash, just big chunks like this will be great. So go ahead, chop up a whole bunch, throw it into a bowl, and then you can go ahead and measure out your 8 cups, okay? And then we'll catch up.
How do you pick these out? That's always my thing. Like, I'll go to the grocery store, I'm like, I don't know how to pick it out, so how do I know if it's a good
Okay, great question. Honestly, if this were my first choice, I probably wouldn't get one with this mark on it, but it doesn't actually mean anything, it's just not as pretty. It should be hard, it should be totally firm on the outside. If you have a soft spot, that means that it's kind of going bad, so stay away from those. But most of the ones in the grocery store are going to be fine. They were picked when they were ready to come out of the ground. I accidentally cut a pumpkin out of the ground earlier this summer because I thought it was a zucchini, because it looks just like a summer squash when it's not ready. It's tender and green. But, they pick them when they're ready, when they're nice and hard and firm. Does that make sense?
And should they be heavy? I heard they should have weight to them.
Yeah, they should be heavy. Some squash are going to be heavier or lighter than others. I have a few other ones here that are great. This is a kabocha squash. This is an acorn, if anybody wants to check these out. All these scratches on the side totally doesn't matter. That discoloration doesn't matter. Just as long as it's firm, that's really all you want.
Got a great look.
And how do you know which ones to eat the peel from the skin?
Well, for me, part of that is determined by how I want the dish to look at the end. Like, I for sure want to have this color in there. But for this, the flesh inside is orange. So if I threw the green skin inside, the color at the end would just kind of be murky. So I'm not going to include the skin on that one. Also, if you don't really know the origin of where the squash came from, if it came from somewhere far away, it probably was grown with pesticides. So then in that case, you want to get rid of the skin. But I know these came from small local farms and you didn't have to use pesticides. So, if you shop at a farmer's market, if you shop at a co-op where they have a lot of local produce, you're probably fine to leave the skin on. All right, so